In this, we are going to have the moderator, our keynote speaker, and the galaxy of the panelists. So firstly, please join me in welcoming on the stage the moderator of this session, Ms. Manisha Chaudhary, National Coordinator, UN Page, UNEP. Please put your hands together for her. I invite you on the dais. I would also like to invite on the stage Mr. Arpit Sharma, CEO, Skill Council for Green Jobs, MSDE, India. Please put your hands together for him and invite him on the stage. He's going to be the keynote speaker of this session. Welcome, ma'am. I request Mr. Arpit Sharma to please join us on the stage. He's on the way, so soon he'll be joining. So let me invite the eminent panelist over here. Mr. Ashok Bonam, Asia Regional ALCBT Project Coordinator, GGGI. Please put your hands together for him. And now I would like to invite on the stage Mr. Thomas Stenstrom, Senior Specialist Employment, Intensive Investment, ILO. Please put your hands together for him. I welcome Mr. Thomas on the stage. And side by side, my backstage team is doing really great job to make everything look really seamless. And yes, we are here. I would also like to invite Ms. Reva Prakash, Environment Policy and Resource Efficiency Advisor of GIZ. Please put your hands together for her. I welcome you on the stage. And this reminds me of my last conference that I did for GIZ as well. So let's welcome her with a round of claps, my dear friends. With your help, I would like to invite on the stage the Chief Advisor of Development Alternatives, Dr. Zeenat Naezi. I welcome you on the stage, ma'am. Please put your hands together for her. Welcoming on the stage now, Dr. Shirley Kedia, Director, Sustainable Development and Outreach, TEDI. Please put your hands together for her. So this is going to be a really interesting session as we are going to talk about greening the jobs and careers. At the same time, let me please share an important information for all the delegates that certificates for all the delegates shall be available tomorrow post-lunch at the registration counters. So tomorrow post-lunch you can collect your certificates, all the delegates, you can collect your certificates from the registration counter. And now in this session, as we have got our dignitaries over here, we also have with us Dr. Varsha Gupta from NIFT, so I invite her on the stage. So may please have ma'am on the stage with your round of applause, my dear friends. This is going to be a wonderful session as I can see now. So before I hand it over to the moderator, Ms. Manisha Chaudhary, let me please give you a brief about the moderator. Ms. Manisha has more than 10 years of work experience in varied areas including project design, development and implementation, knowledge management, monitoring, reporting, documentation, project planning and budgeting, organization of national and international workshops, stakeholder engagement that includes government, non-government agencies, private sectors and multilateral agencies. So my dear friends, we have with us National Coordinator, UN Page, UNEP, Ms. Manisha Chaudhary as the moderator. Please put your hands together for her.
Very good afternoon, distinguished panelists, our dear friends, colleagues. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for taking time out for joining the session. My name is Manisha Chaudhary. I work as the National Coordinator for a joint UN initiative, namely Partnership for Action on Green Economy. It's a joint UN initiative which works across 22 countries to help the governments in transitioning towards green and inclusive economic growth. And in India, this initiative is being led by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. As you know, today we have gathered here to discuss about a very important issue which is really shaping up not just global economies, but also writing the growth story in India, which is the role of green jobs and green skilling. And I think the panel previous to this and the discussion that happened really paved forward to this sessions where we already had some burning questions on green skilling and green jobs. For India, this topic is particularly significant. As you know, India is one of the fastest growing economies, and the way India responds to climate and sustainability challenges will define its future prosperity. Now, the conversation on climate change and sustainability and inclusive growth, as you know, is no more an environmental agenda. It's not limited to only environmental discourse, but it really has become an economic and developmental priority. India is taking proactive steps towards greening the economy. India is a member of Global Alliance on Circular Economy and Resource Efficiency. India has launched the Mission Life. India is moving towards a mission circular economy, where 11 circular economy plans has been come up in the recent past, and there are many such proactive steps being taken up by the government. And this transition, as we have seen in the previous discussion also, is going to generate some great opportunities in terms of green jobs, and jobs not only in the upcoming sectors, the new sectors like renewable energy or EVs, but also in conventional sectors like agriculture, like textiles, like building and construction. So there are going to be a number of opportunities where there will be more jobs which are going to be created. But the question is that, are opportunities enough? What we also need to answer is that, do we have the skills to meet this demand? Now, India is one of the large economy in the world, is the youngest economy in the world, and as we know, with over 65% of population below 35 years of age we have here in India. Every month, more than 1 million people enter the labor market in the country, and if we can channel this demographic dividend into green skilling pathways, then India will not only meet its climate goals, but also strengthen its competitive edge in the global supply chain that increasingly demand the sustainability credentials. And textiles is one such example where EU is coming up with various rules and regulations, policies, which is basically demanding sustainable textiles materials from exporting countries, and soon all the exporting countries will need to meet that demand to keep up with the global market trends. However, this path is not straightforward as it looks like. We need to answer various questions. We need to have clarity on critical areas to help us design a path which is based on scientific evidences, which is based on the need that is to be created. And that is why today's discussion is going to be very important, where we are going to demystify the terminologies. What are green jobs? How do we define green jobs? What does it mean in Indian context? What does it mean for industry, for academia, for institutions, for government? And what are the priority sectors really for investments where more green jobs are going to be created? And what kind of jobs can be envisaged in near future? And what type of green skills will be required, be it in renewables or e-mobility or textiles or agriculture or waste to wealth enterprises? How do we ensure inclusivity? Social inclusion is going to be central of this whole transition. We need to be sure that the transition is just in nature. We need to see that the benefits reaches to women, to rural youth, to informal workers, and that no one is left behind. We also need to focus on how do we build partnerships across government, across industry, across academia and civil society to deliver the skilling needs and the speed and scale to which it is to be intervened and scaled up at the national level, at the global level. Also, one critical question, now when I know all this, when I am aware about all these things, where do I start? How do we connect as industry, as individuals, as academia? So all these questions we are going to put across to our esteemed panelists. And let me emphasize, now green jobs and green skills are not a side agenda. They are at the heart of India's growth story, and we need to deliberate very seriously on this because future is right there. Everything is going to slowly change and we need to be better prepared for this. So with these words, without further ado, I would like to now shift this conversation to enlighten ourselves with the experiences and insights from the distinguished panel that we have today. While we wait for Mr. Arpit Sharma from the Skill Council for Green Jobs to arrive, we will start with the panel discussion, and when he joins, he will share his insights in this area. Thank you, and maybe we can start with the panel discussion. Before we start, let me introduce you to our esteemed panelists. So we have Mr. Ashok Bonham from GGGI. We have Mr. Thomas from ILO. We have Ms. Dr. Riva Prakash from GIZ. Dr. Shelly Kedia from TERI. Dr. Varsha Gupta from NIFT. And Ms. Zeenat Niazi from Development Alternatives. A very warm welcome to all the panelists, and thank you so much for joining us here today. So let me just start with this. Thomas, maybe if you allow, can we start with you?
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So Thomas Storm is a senior specialist on employment and intensive investment for South Asia International Labour Organization. My question to you, Thomas, would be that, everybody is talking about green jobs, but how do we really measure green jobs? What metrics and indicators can be used to measure green jobs creation and skill development? And how can green jobs in India especially balance productivity, social security, and decent work standards? If you can please throw your insights and some light on this.
Thank you very much, Manisha. So my name is Thomas. I'm with the International Labour Organization. We are also a partner agency to the PAGE, the Partnership on Green Economy. And our role is really to promote green jobs and just transitions, to manage workplace displacement in the wake of climate change and climate action. So we have, through our work, there is always a question that comes up, and is what is a green job? What does it mean? How do we define it, and how do we measure green jobs? Because there are no common definitions or agreements that is consensus in India. And it's very important to have a common framework that everyone stands behind, for policy design, to predict, to actually measure progress, for skills mapping and so on and so forth. So, and this has to be across all government, the whole country, right? So we have been working with the Ministry of Labour and Employment. They have asked us to look into this. And we have done some work trying to map international best practices and global experiences on how to measure, how to define green jobs. And what we are finding is that there is no such common understanding. It varies from country to country. And what we also realize is that often green jobs are measured based on their environmental aspects. Now, and often neglecting what we call the decent work component, which is, according to the ILO, a very essential definition. A green job has to be decent and has to contribute to preserving and restoring the environment. So, for instance, you could have a job in electronic waste recycling. That sounds very green, but if it's lowly paid or if it has inadequate occupational safety and health aspects, it is not decent. And we would not qualify that as a decent job, right? So based on, and the Skills Council for green jobs has a definition that is really very close to what we promote, and it's decent included in that, which is really good and a really very good starting point. But looking at this global practice and experiences, we have looked at ways how we can take this forward. And we have thought of looking at the US Department of Labor's occupational database, ONET, where they have actually classified occupations. And we believe that that can be perhaps a way forward in India as well. So we are going to carry out a study, we're discussing this at the moment with the Minister of Labour and Employment, to do a pilot. And we're going to use, because we're working within the page, a subsector in the textile and apparel sectors, to look at classifying green tasks and their occupations and see how we can categorize them. And there are 3 categories that we're looking at. Something that we call green, green and expanding jobs, where actually the greening processes will increase the demand on green employment, but not necessarily meaning that we need to change any skills patterns, occupations. So it's good to know which those jobs are, so that we can also do workforce planning around this. So that's one category. The other one would be what we call green and enhanced skills, where jobs are existing, but they needs to have some tweaks, some extra skilling around them. And for instance, you can have an operations manager, but they need to have more green skills. So that would be a second category of jobs. And then we look at new and emerging green jobs, new sectors, and those would also be important to identify so that we can develop training and curricula around those jobs. So we're going to carry out this study, hopefully, and we come up with some kind of framework, and that one we would like to have as a template and expand it to more sectors. So I'll stop. Yeah, in terms of the decency and all that, I think as ILO we need to also talk about dialogue and social dialogue, and making sure that all partners talking about greening and green jobs, understanding what are the implications and impact of these processes, understanding what type of reskilling and upskilling is needed, so that we make sure that they remain decent. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Thomas, and thank you for letting us know that green jobs framework or measurement indicators are possibly soon to come, and that you have started working on that under page. And also thanks for reiterating that we don't really need to create all the green jobs. There will be some jobs which will be created through greening of existing jobs. So thanks so much for reiterating and sharing your insights on decent work and social security in this space. Thank you so much for that. Now I would like to move on to Dr. Riva Prakash. Dr. Riva Prakash is the Environmental Policy and Resource Efficiency Advisor in EUI RECEI project of GIZ. Dr. Riva, there are various evidences that establish that mainstreaming circularity across value chains has great potential to create green jobs, and hence there will be demand for green skilling in this space as well. Can you please share your views on the potential meet this demand creation, and how are they placed with green skilling? Over to you.
Thank you, Manisha, for that question, and thank you also for inviting me to this very interesting panel. I'm Riva Prakash, and I work with GIZ, and indeed we have been working on circular economy in different sectors, including textile sector, for a while. And in terms of understanding the kind of green jobs that will exist, we also call them circular jobs. We first would like to lay emphasis on the fact that we work with the life cycle approach, so that it's an approach that I think is that needs to be mainstreamed across different disciplines and education courses, so that we understand what kind of environmental impacts, what kind of social impacts are visible across the life cycle of a particular product or a service, and where the most intervention is needed. And in there, we are able to also identify what kinds of skills will be needed. For example, if we are looking at the life cycle of a textile and looking at the MSME space, when we talk about, let's say, I won't go to the life cycle stage of growing cotton, but if we go to the life cycle stage of spinning and then, developing yarn and apparel and then moving on to consumption, then we also see that there is a strong need to also understand how the spinning operations within a factory can be made more environmentally sustainable. Of course, looking at water and energy issues, but also looking at the question of what kind of waste is created at each of these stages and how that waste can be collected and then channelized back into the production process. And in there, the question of materials also becomes important, as well as understanding the material flows and financial flows. So when we are talking also about green jobs and circular jobs, we also need a very interdisciplinary thinking. I mean, sometimes we also tend to think of green and circular jobs from a very technical perspective, but any of these jobs, any of these skills also exist within the context of a social and ecological space. So even understanding that requires a kind of reorientation of how we even look at our processes. Like I said, if we don't look at a life cycle approach, then we tend to also burden shift. So we may have a product that sort of performs better, let's say, at the consumption stage. But for example, we use a lot of fabrics that we now wear is made of polyester. So maybe it lasts longer, maybe it is not so prone to wear and tear or something. I mean, I'm not getting into the conversation of fast fashion yet, but after that use stage, at the end of life, maybe it also becomes difficult in terms of if it is blended with other materials, how do we recycle it? So there are these challenges, and of course these challenges, when you think of this from a perspective of skills, then these challenges require applying a lot of concepts that we learn, a lot of fundamental concepts that we learn in environmental education, along with a lot of experiential training that we have while implementing these solutions. So it's a mix of both. And at MSME stage, what we are also seeing that, of course, I mean, a lot of skilling is required in terms of energy efficiency space. I think that gets talked about quite often. Understanding how, when you're working on energy efficiency or when you're transitioning towards renewable energy, then what kind of a system a unit may need is of course important. Similarly for water and similarly for waste. So that requires a reskilling of the staff, and I would like to add to what Thomas was also saying, that these should be inclusive. I mean, in one of the earlier panels, I also heard that there are green jobs that are being created, but we are also thinking there are jobs that are getting displaced. So we also need to think of the people who will get displaced. So the question of just transition within the MSME space also becomes very crucial. So it won't just create new jobs, but there is also need in these MSME spaces for lifelong learning of the staff that there is, because they already understand a lot of processes. They understand materials, they understand many things that you may not understand sitting inside a university or a classroom. I mean, I'm not saying that education is not needed. Of course, fundamental education is very, very important, but that is where we see a lot of need. So while we are implementing currently the work that we are doing, we are also trying to understand the needs of the MSMEs. So we are currently also assessing the needs of the MSMEs in a lot of these clusters, including in the recycling cluster of what is needed across different operations, and where do they see the skill gaps, and how is it that we can develop some tailored courses and have tailored skill-based training to address those gaps. So I would say we are also somewhere at the beginning of that journey, and we will also have a lot more learning coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eva. And thanks for highlighting that, there are going to be various kinds of jobs which will be created when we shift towards sustainable and circular textiles, be it in the space of chemical management or waste management of textiles, or water use efficiency, energy use efficiency. There will be various jobs in terms of water auditors, energy auditors, managers who manage CTPs, chemical managers. So there will be various new roles to be created, and many roles within the existing roles will also be created. Thanks for highlighting, and also again reiterating the need for just transition in this sector. Since we are on sectoral discussion, let me invite Mr. Ashok Bonham. He's the Senior Officer, Regional Project Coordination, Global Green Growth Institute, GGGI. Mr. Bonham, if, because you have a vast experience in the energy sector, can you please share your views on potential green jobs opportunities and green skill sets that may be required in the energy sector, especially in meeting the growing demand for cooling and building and construction?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for Mobius Foundation for convening this important section. As we are talking about the green jobs, definitely we need to discuss on the two aspects. One is the opportunity which it is creating for the millions of new livelihoods, and at the same time, the responsibility we have for equipping the workforce with the right skills. So now the real challenge is the bridging the gap between both of these, like the job opportunities and at the same time the skills available in the workforce. So as per my experience, I can highlight on few opportunities in energy, cooling and building sector where India is already doing a significant progress, but still lot of scope is there for the green jobs futures. So first of all, I want to highlight on the energy professionals. I want to highlight the contribution made by Government of India, especially through Bureau of Energy Efficiency, through various frameworks, where they have produced thousands of certified energy managers and energy auditors. And there is no doubt that this cadre of professionals are the backbone for the energy efficiency implementation in the country, especially when we talk about the sectors like industries and buildings. So as we, the Government of India is pushing towards the deep decarbonization. So definitely this cadre of professionals will have a huge demand in creating the green jobs. And second, moving to the refrigeration and air conditioning servicing sector, majorly most of the programs are being led by Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change through the India's commitment towards the Montreal Protocol, or either it is through the HPMP phase-out management plan, where the technicians targeting the cooling supply chain are being trained in the areas like energy efficiency improvements, or ensuring the safe handling of the refrigerants, and also getting the dignified livelihoods. So moving forward, as India is continuing its commitment towards its Kigali amendment and also the HFC phase down as well. So definitely there is no doubt these technicians will continue as a critical green job holders. And finally, when I have to discuss about the building sector and the construction sector, I want to highlight on the project which I am working through GGGA, the Asia Low Carbon Building Transition Project. It is a multi-country project funded by Government of Germany. And this project, all the activities are simultaneously being implemented in Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Thailand and Vietnam. A lot of outputs are there, and various tools we are developing for enhancing the capacity of the government for achieving the low carbon environment. And one output related to this green jobs I can highlight is the capacity building. So under this program, nearly 20,000 professionals capacity is being enhanced, and through targeting the different stakeholders covering the entire building ecosystem, starting from the government institutes, financial institutions, architects, developers, ESCOs, material manufacturers, technology providers, all the stakeholders being covered. So the point I want to highlight here is that as we all know, the building sector is one of the major sources of emissions for India, and definitely skilling the professionals with the kind of right skills, definitely a lot of green job opportunities can be be created. And finally, even during our previous panel discussion also, we have discussed it, the training the future graduates. Now, many donors and development agencies are moving towards moving from the sector-specific skilling programs to the systematic change. Under our program also, we are having multiple discussions with various universities across these 5 countries for incorporating the low carbon sustainability concepts into their university curricula, so that who are the future graduates coming into the workforce can get the right sustainable literacy and green skills so that they can contribute to the green economy. So I feel that with this kind of thing, India can not only meet the domestic green job demands, at the same time we also can become the global hub for the green skills.
Thank you, Mr. Bonham. And thanks for highlighting that green jobs is just not a concept. You have highlighted that Government of India is committed to various global goals, and to meet those global goals we certainly will need to transition and advance the transition towards green inclusive economic growth and development, and this will certainly mean that there will be more demands for new jobs, for green jobs and green skilling in this space. And building and construction is certainly a sector that is going to have more and more demand for cooling, with the extreme heat rising day by day, and with sustainable cooling options in building, there will be need for technicians, engineers, also masons at that level also, who will need to be trained to build green buildings, and in this space there will be again huge opportunities for green jobs creation and skilling. So thanks for that, Mr. Bonham. Since you talked about India's commitments, I would like to move on to Dr. Shelly Kedia. Dr. Kedia is Director of Sustainable Development and Outreach, TERI. Dr. Kedia, if you can share some thoughts on how do India's national commitments, whether it is in space of climate or hydrogen or renewable energy targets, shape up the scope of green jobs? And how do you think can academia, industry and international agencies can collaborate to close this skill gap which is needed to address the demand? And how do we also ensure that the needed awareness and knowledge on green skilling is accessible to women and youth, because we also talked about inclusivity in the whole concept coming in. Yeah, over to you, Dr. Kedia.
Thanks. Firstly, thanks to the organizers for organizing this session and for inviting thoughts from TERI. So when we talk about international and national commitments, the one that was given in the question was, let's say, the Panchamrit targets. When we talk about Panchamrit targets or climate commitments of India, often the focus goes a little bit more disproportionately to the energy targets, to the emissions, to the energy, the power generation capacity targets. And there, of course, there is a lot of scope, and India has made a lot of progress. This was also highlighted by my previous speakers, when we talk about the whole system of energy auditors, and there's been a lot of positive progress on that front. One of the less talked about, when we talk about green jobs, is when we talk about carbon sinks. It's also one of India's major NDCs. And just, some time ago, TERI undertook a study on skills. And not just skills, we realized we have to go beyond skills and look at capacities of institutions that could impart those skills as well. So we just focused mostly on the food and land use system. We took a value chain based approach, and we looked at different thematics that could contribute to climate action, including adaptation and mitigation and carbon sinks. So I just want to start with, just with that example, and then going on, of course, to the broader messages. So what we found is, let's say a lot of ICR institutions, when we talk about agriculture, they are not fully, staffed. A lot of posts, they are vacant. Just giving the example of agriculture sector. And when we talk about skills, we also analyzed the QPs, the qualification packs under, the NSDCs, and of course, the Green Skill Council is also one of the councils amongst the others. But we did a comprehensive analysis of all the value chains, across all the value chains in the agriculture, which include, of course, the Green Skill Council, but also a few others. And what we realized is when we take a value chain-based approach, a larger focus is actually on the production side, still on the crop production side. When we talk about sustainable consumption production, circular economy, there is a lot more things that need to go in, including when we talk about mission life, consumer awareness, how green the food is, the footprint, how it is disposed, even when we're talking about a very simple issue like crop residue burning. So there are a lot more things. A lot is really still emphasized on the production side. More needs to be looked at the choice of crops itself, and also when we talk about the end use. So that was our analysis based on a comprehensive analysis of all the QPs under the NSDC. Then the second aspect which we found was that even in that space, there was focus on, let's say, organic agriculture in the skill development, but less focus on, let's say, when now we're talking so much about nature-based solutions. We're talking about agroforestry. We're talking about, voluntary carbon markets coming in. So there is so much more scope in that space when we talk about green skills. And then we traced it back as to who could actually impart those skills, and then we realized that those institutions also need to be, build capacity. And that's where your point of collaboration could come in. The international agencies could come in, the industry could come in, the CSR projects could contribute. There is so much scope actually when you sort of talk about that. So, yes, I think the food processing sector, for example, there could be so much more aspects related to not just green, but when we talk about good health and other aspects and other SDGs as well. So, yeah, just I think, when we talk about climate skills, yes, I think first and foremost, we need to have a dedicated, comprehensive policies aligned with all these commitments, including the long-term strategies of India, to have a comprehensive roadmap. Again, I feel that technology is advancing faster. In the previous session, we had a session on AI. We have to really keep up pace with the technology, but also use the technology to the best. So I think yes, India does have, with the demographic dividend which you mentioned, does have the capacity to be the global hub for green skills, but we really need to catch faster, and we really need a dedicated policy around that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Kedia, for highlighting the sectoral example of agriculture. Also highlighting that, and thanks for sharing that you have done this mapping of skilling needs, which I think really is the starting point. We really need to understand where and what kind of green jobs are being created or potentially will be created in the near future, and what kind of skill gap is there. Only based on that, actions such as policy can also be derived and developed. Moving on to Dr. Zeenat Niazi. Dr. Niazi, the Chief Advisor, Circular Economy and Climate Resilience Program at Development Alternatives. Dr. Zeenat, if you can just throw some light on what are the enabling factors, because Dr. Shelley talked about the policy push which is needed. So if you can share what are some of your insights on what kind of enabling factors such as policy push or consumer behavior change, because she also talked about demand side creation of the need, or international market requirements needs to be created which can facilitate higher demand for green jobs creation and opportunities for green skills. Over to you.
Thanks, Manisha, and thank you very much for inviting me to this panel, and to sort of put these thoughts so that one can sort of organize one's thinking from a different perspective. I've been working on climate resilience and on circular economy issues in many sectors, rural and urban, primarily around the human settlement space, but others as well. And we've always, as part of development alternatives, been focused on the fact that livelihood creation and job creation is fundamental to India's development story, sustainable or otherwise. You know, that's, unless you have, and we've called our mission as the mission to create sustainable livelihoods. And so I am coming from that sort of space. But before I sort of get into the larger enabling environment, I think a couple of points I wanted to make regarding what is it that we are seeing. We are seeing from the production side, if I may say so, whether it's manufacturing or services, goods and services, we see a very large typology of scales of enterprises or agencies who require people. Yeah, these may be large corporations, large industry houses, but we can go all the way down to cooperatives, collectives, small, really micro-scale enterprises, and you have this whole range, and their needs are different. The needs of the people working there are different, and unless we are able to target not just sectorally, but also the scale of the manufacturing or service point that we are talking about, we are not going to be able to make a difference. So that's one space where I feel that a lot of policy effort needs to go. And it's not just policy effort, it has to be a policy industry effort, because you are talking about a production services space, which is a market space. And the second point that I wanted to make is that if you look at the large industry space, whether green or not, number of jobs are decreasing, at least in the production space. So let's not, in a sense, be under any kind of illusion that we are going to be creating manufacturing jobs. There will be many more supporting jobs. There will be many more intellectual jobs because they require management or scientific support, etc. in these industries. But the quantum is not going to be that much. So that's something, and they're going to be very high skill jobs. So that's something we need to understand very clearly. And these are jobs that probably our so-called demographic dividend is not ready for. Also something that we should be very, very honest about. We are a very young economy. We are very many people who are getting, and you mentioned the number of people who are getting into the jobs, but what is the fundamental skill base they are coming into? And let me give you a few personal examples, because I think it makes a lot of difference when you are associated with it. I've been engaged at a personal level for quite some time now, working with students who are coming from rural schools into Delhi, who are trying to get into now schooling. And I must say that at most often than not, I'm terrified with what they will be doing. Whether it's language skills, whether it's math skills, whether it's the basic fundamental skills that you need for any job creation, they are missing. So are we really talking demographic dividend, or are we talking about a demographic disaster for a generation that we see growing up? I think that's where a whole lot of attention has to be focused from the policy end on the primary education and on the science education for people, because there will be much more of that required as we go forward. In the small scale sector, the micro sector, there are not just these basic fundamental gaps. There are also gaps of infrastructure. There are gaps of capital. There are gaps of information. And I think the enabling that is required there is probably aggregation support, because these are very small scale production services enterprises, or who cannot afford individually to reach out. So the enabling that is required is how can we aggregate them to provide those services and support. The third point, and I think that's something that keeps coming to us, and we know however much we start from the production end, it is the market end. So what is it that we are doing in terms of supporting the market creation and the market transformation for these skills and the green products? And I think that's where I would like to look at two things. One is the general market, the awareness that you're creating. I want to live in a green building. I want to build with a material that is greener. What is it that to do I'm getting an incentive for? As a common citizen, am I incentivized or supported to even ask this question that I would like to now use a green product? Because if there is no market, then there is no demand. There is no demand, there's going to be neither product nor service viable. So that's fundamental enabling that the government has to do, is to work on market transformation. And I'll give you another personal example. Calling up to find out, can there be green compressed earth blocks? If people don't know, it's basically green bricks that we can have available in the city of Varanasi. This is a question I asked, and I got a response back from India Mart. So many in small scale and MSMEs are registered on India Mart. And I was very surprised. I said, okay, in a city like Banaras, which has a very high red brick production, high quality red production, there are people actually there who can service me with green bricks. I looked a little bit more deeply into that space, and I find that 90% of them are not from Uttar Pradesh. They are from down south. And there is two, I think, maybe it was one, who is from UP but also very far off from Banaras. Which means that if somebody in Banaras is looking for materials of a certain type, it's going to be expensive for them. And so the immediate reaction will be, "Ye chalega nahi," because if I'm going to get somebody to supply me the bricks from Hyderabad, it's not going to work for me. So the market, again, now the second side of the market transformation is what can we do from the public procurement end. And public procurement is a big space that the policy push can do to create the market for green. And here is where I think one aspect that we've been fighting for at DA is how do you include the indicators for the green in the products and services that the government, whether it's PSUs or government agencies, are asking for. There are a lot of things that are happening in the public procurement space, incidentally, but we still not see in that kind of major push that has to happen. We still see L1 dominating all tenders. So my submission really here is that while we have a quality consideration in procurement, we have an L1 consideration. When we start looking at a green consideration, we look at carbon, we look at resources. Yeah? And I think the third is job creation. Can one actually now, for all of these reasons, and Reva spoke about LCA, LCA can actually give you indexes to say, okay, for any sector, let's be textile, it could be a building product, it could be paper manufacture, what's the E and what's the energy, what's the resource, or if I may say carbon instead of energy, what's the carbon, what's the material resource, critical material resource, and what's the labor creation potential of or index of this, which you can convert into simple standard numbers that can be filled in and probably be part of your GEM portal. Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm going to have a last point now here, is that when we are looking at sector transformation and support to sector transformation, there's industry, there is also the fact that you're looking at people who will be part of that industry to transform the sector, and then as the sector transforms, you need people to service that. So there will be many more jobs, and here the industry's role really comes into play. The final point that I want to make is that of equity. We've all spoken about, I think three people here and another, and I think in the last session also, about jobs that will be created and jobs that will be displaced. And I will repeat my point of a lost generation, because those jobs that will be displaced are not the jobs that are going to be created. So there is a whole arena of people, and in this country there will be people from the age group of 35 to 60 probably, who are going to lose jobs. And we need to focus on them for figuring out what they will do, because there are also many of them not in a situation where they can very quickly acquire AI and other skills. So I think that's something that in terms of capacities we need.
No, thanks, Jeanette, and thanks for highlighting the urgency of the situation, that we need to now move beyond from the discussions to action. And thanks for highlighting some very micro as well as macro factors as enabling factors towards this change, including policy push, market creation, aggregation support, incentives, job creation. So thanks for that. And with this, I would like to move on to our next panelist, who is Dr. Varsha Gupta. Dr. Varsha Gupta is professor in Master of Design program and head of research and IPR at National Institute of Fashion Technology. Dr. Varsha, we talked about the textile sector, related is the fashion industry. What role do you think can institutions such as NIFT can play in building green skilling in the fashion industry? And if you can share your perception on, of budding designers, on their perception on green jobs and skilling in the sector of fashion and design. Over to you.
Thank you, Manisha. We come from an, I come from an institute which is higher education. So probably the kind of things that you talked about, the school education, are very different from what we see on a day-to-day basis. But yes, in terms of roles that institute like ours can play, I think we have a huge responsibility, especially after looking at the kind of people or the jobs that are required in the industry. And we have to ensure that our curriculum is industry ready always. So I would really put the emphasis on these two things. One is curriculum and the other is collaboration. So taking examples from both, with respect to curriculum, we ensure that every program, every course, every subject is taught in a manner that sustainability and the principles of sustainability are ingrained into the subject. No more that we say that we are going to teach sustainable design as a subject. It's like a part and parcel of the process that is happening. So that is one major pedagogical approach shift that we have moved to. We firmly believe that when these graduates go back to the industry, they should not go only as sustainability expert, but they should, if they go as sustainability expert, they should also have a very clear knowledge about the product that they are doing. So just having an expert in sustainability is not good enough. So I think, and that is like covered in all subjects, all courses. With respect to collaboration, the collaboration can come from any end, the support can come from any end. It could be industry, it could be NGO, it could be any other organization. And I take the example of collaboration that we did with UNEP and how UNEP opened its doors and resources to us. And we could design a lot of electives in the area of sustainable studies. We even did industry programs where they were management development programs for the industry professionals. And we also did diploma programs. We designed diploma programs. And those diploma programs and even these other curriculums, which we designed with the global resources of UNEP, are now have become resources and repository for UNEP, which UNEP really is sharing with other institutes. So I guess the kind of change that can happen with one kind of collaboration can make a huge difference. So if you look at the numbers, because we are 19 campuses, we have pan-India presence. So one elective that is taught in all 19 campuses at all the 10 programs, you can see the number of people who are getting out of that particular program, and likewise for diploma programs and everything else. So when Manisha, you were talking about your initial note, it set me thinking that the three things that you talked about, which were skill, speed, and scale, right? So then I was thinking that, do you think with this UNEP collaboration, were we able to achieve that? I think yes. So if the collaboration and the curriculum is in place, I think institutes like ours can really play a major role. The challenge may be extremely high, and of course, when I listen to people from or experts from the industry, I realize that the kind of jobs that are there is, of course, there are a number of jobs that are there, and there are a number of professions that these students will get into. But are they really skilled to do that? Because even today, if you open any of these e-retail websites and you look for sustainable products, you get loads and loads of products. Majority of the products are in the category of sustainable products. How sustainable? Where is it that the product is actually filling in the requirements of being sustainable? So I think till the students really are trained and realize that it doesn't really serve the purpose. So I think, yes, we, institute like ours have a huge responsibility, and I hope we do it right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Varsha, and thanks for highlighting the importance of collaboration and really leveraging on our mutual expertise to bring things to speed and scale. And good to know that students are getting interested in enrolling in such programs, and also again reiterating what Zenith was mentioning, that are we ready to take up the jobs which are also there, you know, and do we have enough skills? Before we move on to our keynote speaker to talk about how can we bridge the skill gap and sharing his views as his work under the Green Skill Council for Jobs, Skill Council for Green Jobs, I would like to just quickly ask in 2 words, 1 word on the challenge that you see in the sector and 1 word on the recommendation, maybe 2 words. So very quickly, as we are running out of time, and then I would like to invite our keynote speaker to share his thoughts on this. So Mr. Bona, maybe starting with you, 1 challenge, what you see in green skilling and green job space, and 1 recommendation, and then we move on quickly to other speakers. Just one word. And
yeah, thank you for asking. The 1 challenge I want to highlight here is even in the previous panel also they have highlighted the mismatch between the skill programs and the demand. And my recommendation would be co-creating the skills with the stronger partnership with the governments, academia, industries, so that what are the skills we are going to be taught that should match the demand of the jobs which are going to be created. I think that is the one of the recommendation.
Thanks. Maybe Zenith will go, and yeah, maybe Thomas, you can.
Yeah, I just want to repeat that. I think what I said, there's a need for a common understanding and a framework for measuring and defining the green jobs, and I think this is something that we will be working on, and hopefully that can facilitate policy development, skills development, and so on. Thank you.
I think the main challenge remains the lack of investment into both training people on fundamentals, including primary, secondary education. Without that, I don't think we can build on any skills, green or otherwise. And the opportunity remains the same. I mean, if we invest more, we will be able to get the demographic dividend that we have been talking about for, I think, decades now.
Yeah, I think we have to take, like, you know, a very systemic approach and whole of a government approach to this. We have quite many international as well as national commitments, and those need to somewhere translate into skills. So there has to be greater interaction between those ministries. And I think we have had in the past few years many institutions along with, you know, the Skill India mission. I think we need to now really, you know, building on all of those efforts, we really need a very succinct and coherent roadmap towards greening of skills, so that, you know, it can respond to circular economy issues or green fashion issues or construction, or, you know, even indicators, and definitely green public procurement. I think, you know, we need to have that policy.
I think I'll not talk about the challenge. Probably everyone has. I don't see a challenge. I think towards co-creation, and with co-creation, we can achieve a lot. So if we do it very systematically and look at it as a holistic perspective, I think we can do a lot.
I will echo you, Dr. Gupta, and I will not talk of a challenge, but the opportunity. I think the biggest opportunity is the transformation of the market, and both private and public market, which is really like a catalyst, which to ask for jobs. And I think a recommendation in this whole space of market transformation that I would make is to make sure that it's equitable. At giving an example of the waste sector, to not treat informal sector, for example, as people who will always be the service providers, but can you be part of the mechanism of providing service with stake, with real stake economic in that, which means that you get up into the value chain. Yeah, finally, maybe there are some jobs that need not be there, and that's another long discussion.
Thank you so much, Zenith, for this. And I would like to request for a big round of applause for our esteemed panelists to share their experience and insights on this very important topic. With this, I would like to invite Mr. Arpit Sharma, the CEO for Skill Council for Green Jobs, to share his insights on bridging the skill gap for a sustainable future. Over to you. Maybe you can take the dais.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank UNEP, Manisha ji, and Mobius Foundation for having me here. First of all, I would like to express that, my keynote address, I'll have to change a little bit, because a lot of that, has already been spoken by our esteemed panelists. I can see a lot of youngsters here sitting, and they must be really inquisitive about, everyone is talking about the green sector, everyone is talking about green jobs. There are so many jobs that are upcoming in the area of sustainability, environment, or climate change, or renewable energy. Why is that? So I'm addressing this specifically to the youngsters, that what is the background? Why is everyone or the country talking so much highly about, the sector and what kind of jobs that are going to evolve? So over the years, we have seen that in India as a country, we have really emerged as a leader in driving the climate action. And we have had various commitments during the COP26 at the UNFCCC, where we have pledged that we'll have over 50% cumulative power installed capacity from non-fossil fuel. And during the COP26, we also pledged that we'll reduce 1 billion tons of carbon emissions and we'll be net zero by 2070. This gives a lot of opportunities to the renewable energy sector, to the climate sector, to the environment sector as a whole in times to come. And you can see that, India's leadership and India's commitments to decarbonize various sectors, they have opened up various investment opportunities in the country today. And these opportunities are not only restricted to the financial investments, but they include employment, income supplementation, entrepreneurship, and various other market opportunities. And we'll see that areas like the solar, the wind, the biomass, or green hydrogen, even environment for that matter, electric vehicles, greenhouse gas emissions accounting and reporting, sustainable buildings, these are going to explode in a very, very big way in times to come. Now, what we mean by green skills, so ILO has already defined, and in fact the concept note for this meeting also defines the green skills, but green skills are basically technical and transversal skills, including the non-technical skills, wherein a lot of speakers were talking about that we are not only focusing on the technical skills, but there would be a lot of non-technical skills that would emerge. So green skills are the skills that enables workers or businesses to support emission reduction, climate resilience, and sustainable resource use of their resources. The examples are, commissioning or maintaining a solar PV system. It can be wind power systems also. It can be battery storage. It can be commissioning a green hydrogen plant, manufacturing an electrolyzer, or producing the hydrogen. This also includes various environmental job roles which have been identified by Skill Council for Green Jobs and approved by Government of India. Like one very interesting job role to me is the one called the para-taxonomist. So he's the one who registers, what kind of species are getting extinct, how is the marine life behaving. A very small example, if you have to produce hydrogen, so you require water, you require splitting of water, you require the electrolysis to be done. So in a coastal area where the desalination of water needs to be done, there would be a direct effect on the marine life. So this para-taxonomist, most of you I'm sure would not have even heard about this kind of an individual, will play a very, very important role in times to come, when we'll see that the hydrogen market is going to evolve and has just started. So the main institutions, I would say, which are behind this whole green economy are basically divided in three basic categories. The first one is the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, which is overall responsible, and the regulator, NCVET, the National Council for Vocational Education and Training, which is responsible for overall monitoring and overall responsible for approving various national occupational standards that are created by organization like ours, which is the Skill Council for Green Jobs, which is an awarding body of the National Council for Vocational Education and Training, and we directly work under the ministry. So first is this. Second one is the SCGJ, which is the Skill Council for Green Jobs, which we were established in 2015. Our main promoting body is the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, and the parent body is the Ministry of Skill Development, and we work very closely with other line ministries like the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MAUA, as well as the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. And the third one is the civil society, which will play a very, very important role. The civil society, the research and the industry partners like GIZ, WRI, NRDC, or other major corporates, who are supporting this important cause of this country. I would also like to highlight very quickly that we have some, if I estimate the number of jobs so far that have been created in various areas till 2025, and I'm talking since inception, then it has been estimated that India has created close to 3.5 lakh jobs in the solar PV domain, 85,000 jobs in the biogas sector, 58,000 jobs in the solid biomass, 52,000 jobs in the wind energy, 35,000 jobs in liquid biofuels, and 22,000 jobs in the solar heating and cooling. And this is a very small number as on date. Now I would like to give you a little shocking kind of numbers that we have estimated under these various domains like wind energy, utility scale solar, solar projects like PM Kusum, which is directly related to the agriculture, solar rooftop, which falls directly under the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, hydropower, biomass, and the overall renewable energy. So if we take an example of wind energy, we can see that India as a country, the RE installed capacity that needs to be added from now onwards till March 2030 is 52.93 gigawatts. The utility scale energy and off-grid is 146.39 gigawatts. Solar projects under Kusum are going to be 31.8 gigawatts. Rooftop solar is to be added at a tune of 26.6 gigawatts. Hydro projects have to be added in the tune of 26.03 gigawatts, and this total renewable energy installed capacity that needs to be added is 287 gigawatts by 2030, which will cumulatively make it 500 gigawatts. That is the number that we always talk about. And this will create more than 21,374 direct jobs in these particular sectors. And I'm not touching the other sectors. I'm not touching the storage. I'm not touching green hydrogen, where India aims to produce around 5 million metric tons of green hydrogen by 2030, which will create direct 6 lakh jobs in this country. Close to this 5 million metric tons of hydrogen will bring on an additional capacity of 125 gigawatts of additional renewable energy, and that would also further create a lot of jobs at various levels, whether it is at the engineering level or it is at at different levels. So lastly, I would like to conclude that yes, when we talk about the challenges and the opportunities, so I see that the first challenge, I'll talk about 4. The first challenge is the quality of training. You can see that there has been a mushrooming of training centers across the country under the Skill India or under various skill development initiatives, and we can see that a lot of these institutions don't perform. They don't have the right set of trainers. They don't have right set of labs. So the training quality needs to be very well aligned toward with the industry, as one of the speakers rightly said. Gender inclusion is a major factor. We still see that the gender percentage, the female participation in the particular sector is less than 15%, and this needs to be increased substantially. I'll give you a small example. I know we are running short of time. Let's just take 2 minutes. Recently, we carried out a program with ADB, and we did a capacity building training program in Maharashtra, where we could significantly see 57% of women participation in the solar PV domain, and all of them, they have got jobs. The second example is that we did a capacity building program for the salt pan workers in Gujarat, represented by SEWA, which is the Self-Employed Women's Association. This was a 3.5 month or maybe 4 month duration program, where all of them, all the beneficiaries were women. And after the program, the trainings were carried out, almost out of 800 women, 40% have got jobs in manufacturing and solar installation. And the third one is of course, a lot of sectors like the waste management, it has to be brought down into from informal to the formal sector. Only then there will be there will be much clarity on the Swachh Bharat Mission document 2.0, because till the time it doesn't become formal as a sector, even the government or the academia or the private institutions won't be able to do much. And fourthly, which we do, and a lot of training institutions don't do, like we have 1,000 training partners across the country, and they follow a standardized course curriculum which is approved by the regulator. This course curriculum is basically vetted by the industry. This 30 industry validations are submitted to the regulator, only then it is approved. So these standalone courses, they need to be discouraged, because this is something that an institution has created out of their own brainchild, out of their own brains, and it is not standardized, it is not validated by the industry, and it is being run. So a challenge and an opportunity can be that we, with Skill Council for Green Jobs, we can jointly design courses, and they can be standardized, approved by the government, and a government certificate can be issued to each and every candidate. There are a lot of stories that I would like to maybe share next time, but for now I think it is time and we are running short. So thank you so very much for inviting me here and listening to me and being very patient. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arpit Sharma. Thanks for very valuable insights. Colleagues, dear friends, you have heard our esteemed panelist, our keynote speaker, touching upon various aspects of green jobs and green skilling. I understand that this 1 hour, 1.5 hour session is not enough to really know everything about green jobs and green skilling and what is lying in our near future, but certainly must have left you with some food for thought, and maybe over tea or otherwise through emails you can contact our panelists, us, and know more about green jobs, green skilling, and what are the opportunities lying in the near future. With this, again, I would like to thank very much our esteemed panelists for taking out time and sharing our insights and experience, and our keynote speaker to sharing his for sharing his thought. And thank you for being patient and listening to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. It was wonderful, and it was really a delightful session. Thank you so much. And now I would like to request you to please step forward for a photo op. And I request Sudhir Shukla ji from Mobius Foundation to please come up on the stage to join up in this photo op, and along with that to felicitate our dignitaries. So maybe please have this golden moment captured into the cameras. Yeah. And I also request my backstage team to please be ready with the mementos, because now it's the time for the felicitation of these esteemed panelists who have given their really, really valuable time for such an important subject. Thank you so much. I request Shukla sir to please felicitate the esteemed panelists. May we please have the mementos over here. Ms. Manisha Chaudhary, please put your hands together for her. Now I request this felicitation for Mr. Arpit Sharma. Mr. Ashok Bonam, thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for being in this session, and we are really grateful for your insightful thoughts on this subject. Ms. Reva Prakash, here is the felicitation for you. Thank you so much. It's just a gesture of remembrance from our side, from Mobius Foundation, to these panelists. Dr. Zeenat Niazi, this is for you, ma'am. Dr. Shelley Kedia. And Dr. Varsha Gupta. Thank you so much for joining us. It was really, really a delightful session, and so much food for thought, as Madam Chaudhary said. Thank you so much. So with this, I would now like to invite you all for a cup of tea, but important announcement, since it is heavily raining outside, so that's why the area of the tea break is changed. So you may all go at the basement area near Amiltas. We have arranged those facility of tea and coffee for you. Please grab your cup of tea and quickly come back for the next fireside chat. Thank you so much. See you on the other side.